I'm Master Lee Barton, and this is my partner, Master James Cassidy. Welcome to the Advanced Chuck series. Let's start this tape out with a little bit of history about the Lissajous weapon system. Lissajous was a French physicist that actually discovered sound travels in patterns. He did this by taking two tuning forks and putting them at right angles to each other over a body of water. When he chimed them, the tuning forks made vibrations over the water, which actually traced out the patterns. That's how he came up with Lissajous ratios. My instructor, Grandmaster Roy Williams, noticed that not only were those patterns relative to sound, but they're also relative to motion. So he applied that into his martial arts system, Lissajous weapon system. Lissajous are actually ratios of motion that are cast around the body at a constant pace will actually trace out your body's structural relationship or reference. You're going to see that coming up in some of the tapes. Before we get started, I want you to take the time to look around your area. Check to see if there are any glass, ceramics, television, glass top tables, and especially low-hanging ceiling fans. You want to be real careful about swinging your chucks, because if you raise it up too high and break a bulb, it can crash on your head. Also, you can get your chucks caught up in the fan and shoot them across the room and injure somebody. So ultimately, you're responsible. So be careful and have a lot of fun with the Advanced Chuck series. Let's get started on intermediate techniques for the advanced chuck swinger. Now in tape one we made reference to the basic grips and the positions. Now those are really it, that's it, but you can change them around a little bit. And there's also a lot of neat tricks in being able to switch your grips. One of the first ones is the advanced slide. Now in tape one I made reference to the crawl, and I made reference to the slide, on how you slide your hand down. Now, I'm not going to go into this. If you haven't seen tape one, then go back to tape one and check it out. Now, advanced slide is from a negative grip. Now, in the negative grip, this is where you want to learn some of your flow from here. Now, what you'll do from this position is you're going to have the chuck here, and you kind of toss and slide. So I slid, and I went down to a positive grip right in the midsection. Let's look at that again. Come up, slide, boom, right on through. Got it right here, so slide and pull it through. Okay, so right here and slide. Now you can also get things like that going on the side as you pull across and pull back and through. Now let's go take a look at finger flips. Finger flips are an excellent way to get a slight, a very unnoticeable switch. You have the chuck in a positive grip, somewhere in between low and mid-range. Now what you're going to do is you're going to place your finger on the other side, you're going to pull it across and actually switch your grip by rotating around the finger. It's called a finger flip. Now there are a lot of ways to do the finger flip, and we'll be getting into that more with tape 3 and tape 4. But for right now, you have to understand this finger flip for some of the moves coming up. So as you're moving along, you very sneakily stick this finger over there and then just pull it right over and across. And now you're in a negative grip, working all your techniques from your negative position. Now if you want to go back from that position, then just do a hand roll. Bring it right on over, pull it right on back. There's also finger flips that'll take you back. All right, let's do a couple of those. So you're working your 1-to-2 ratio, and say in an upward pattern. You just sneak your finger over there and then just pull it right on over. Do it again. Now watch this. So we're working our figure 8. Sneak our finger over there, whoop, pull it right on over. Let's do a few reps. Now notice I'm taking it back on with a finger flip. As I came across here and brought it over to here, as I bring my strike out in the negative position, I'm actually opening up these two fingers here and letting it go right back in and through and down as a reverse finger flip. So let's watch that again. It goes this way, then it comes back that way, this way, and then back that way. Let's do a few of those. And now let's do some palm rotations. Simple move, starting an upward 1-to-2 ratio. Real simple. Get a nice even flow, and then just turn it over to there. Now once you catch in this position, you want to keep that flow going. You want to keep that flow going in a negative 1-to-2. Now as you do this, you're going to come in this position here. You're going to open your palm and let the chuck rotate there, and then you're right back into a positive grip. So we're doing an upward 1-to-2 ratio. We bring it over, Now we've got that flow going, then we bring it up. Now it's easier to pull these moves off one at a time instead of trying to combine them like that. So say you're out there and you're doing a move and you're coming across and you're working all your moves. You're going to just whoop, pull it over and then whoop, right back into the grip. See how that works? Let's try it again. So you're moving, doing your moves. Then you're going to take and pull it across. There's your switch. Then you'll come back. There's your switch. Palm rotations. Let's do that again. So it goes. Now that you've seen it at normal speed, let's go ahead and slow it down just a little bit so you can get a better view of this move. As you come across your body, you're going to open your palm and change your grip. That's why it's a palm rotation. The same stick is rotating in your palm. It's going to come across your body, and you're going to come back and clutch, a negative clutch, and then you're going to come straight up on a vertical strike and do your switch. So it comes across the body, and it comes up. Now slowing these moves down to show you that are a little more difficult than it may seem, but I'm going to give it an effort for you. So watch this as we go slow. It comes across, comes back, and then rotates. Comes across and rotates. A cross rotation, vertical rotation. Cross, vertical. Cross, vertical.
Now let's talk about some advanced footwork. Starting in the center of your star pattern, you're going to step out to a right front stance. Now from there, you're going to step all the way over to the left corner into what's called a khaki stance. From here, you're going to turn to a right front stance, then to a neutral stance, then to a left front stance, then stepping across our box, back into a khaki stance. From here, right front, neutral, left front. Stepping again to the forward, over to the left, right front, neutral, left front. Step again over to the corner, right front, neutral, left front. Now let's talk a little bit about spinning. Spinning footwork is geared a little bit more towards the flow aspect of chuck swinging and not so much towards combat. Now starting from the center, we're going to step back into a left front stance. First turn we're going to do is a quarter turn, just like so. Notice how I slightly tuck my leg when I turn. Okay, now the quarter turn in reverse direction. Okay, now let's go into half turns. This is the forward half turn. Notice I tuck my leg. Okay, now the half turn in reverse. Okay, now let's do three-quarter spins. A good way to help you remember your positioning on the star square pattern is to count the corners as you turn. 1, 2, 3, plant. 1, 2, 3, plant. 1, 2, 3, plant. 1, 2, 3, plant. And now I'm back in the same position I started in. And now that you've practiced counting your corners, let's go ahead and do the three-quarter spin with the leg tuck. Now let's do the three-quarter turn in reverse direction. A good key point to remember when doing this exercise is your foot is always placed in the box in front of you. Now we're going to go over the 360 full spin. An important thing to remember is when you come up, make sure you get your leg tucked in and you have all your weight over your toe. A good way to practice this move is by just standing like this and coming up on your toe and trying to balance yourself. Because that's a big part of the move, is the balance. Now we're going to do the spin off the khaki stance. Starting from the center, I'm going to step out to a right lead. From there, I'm going to take my right foot, step over to the left corner in the khaki stance. From here, I'm going to shoot my weight up and wind into my spin, and then plant. Starting from the center again, step, step, spin. One more time. Step, step, spin. Now that you've practiced and gone over all the other stances and footwork, let's try to mix it up a little bit and do a little bit of combination stepping. Now let's look at some other footwork combinations.
And now let's get into some flow. In tape 1, we talked about 1-to-2 ratios. We were working those 1-to-2 ratios on a horizontal plane. We're going to change this up a little bit this tape, and we're going to take that 1-to-2 ratio and we're going to flip it onto a vertical plane. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, as we go across our body this way, we're going to make one circle underneath. Start your whole thing out this way. Just make a circle, like you're stirring a pot almost upside down. Then you're going to take it and you're going to make a cross and you're going to do a loop over your head, like you're going to lasso something. And you're going to stir the pot and lasso. And then you're going to combine the two together and it becomes a 1-to-2 ratio done on a vertical plane. Now, however you want to do to figure this out is fine. The pot and the lasso is just something I've been using for years to help people get an understanding of this. Nice and simple, not overexcited, not too tense. You'll notice my grip is loose. At certain positions, I'll open my hand up in one of those grips. This is called an over and under 1-to-2 or 1-to-2 on a vertical plane. Now, let's go ahead and combine a little bit. If you were paying attention to tape 1, you know about the same stick handoff. What we're going to do is we're going to do the over and under 1-to-2, and we're going to hand it off here. And we're going to do the over and under 1-to-2 on the left side. You always want to train your other side as much as you can as equal to the right side, or you're going to end up a little lopsided. Now we're going to hand it off, 1-to-2, hand it off, 1-to-2, hand it off. Excellent move. Perfect handoff. Now notice what I'm doing. I've got my hand eagerly anticipating the arrival of that wand. I know I'm doing it. As soon as I release it, I slide across my body and get it ready for grip. And you're handing it right back into the positive grip. If you want to, you can delay that a little bit and hand it into a negative grip if you'd like, but that's something you can do on your own. Now let's put some power into it. Extend our hips into the motion. Now if you paid attention again on tape 1, you'll see the footwork section where we actually go heel, toe, heel, toe. We're going to do the same thing. Remembering that all power is structured at a right angle. We're standing square right now to the camera. You would be standing square to your mirror, to the window, or whatever you use to get your reflection. Now as you do this, you're going to turn the back foot. Notice how when I came across my body, I picked my heel up on the back foot. Heel on the other foot. So it goes heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. My focus is still to the center. Now I can change my focus and come over to one side, come over and check another. Or I can just keep it right here and practice my rotations, get my footwork down. Because if you're not paying attention to the footwork, again, weak foundation. You've got to have good footwork. If you can't maintain balance, then the battle's half over for your enemy. He's already defeated you. Okay? That's a 1 to 2 on a vertical plane with the same stick handoff to a positive grip. Now let's have a little fun. Let's put a step and a rotation in it. Again, footwork is important. Pay close attention to the footwork segments on these tapes. We're going to start off now. For this one, disregard the box. We're going to step a little wider than the box shoulder widths. So we start out here. We're going to go over, under, hand it off. Now watch my feet. When I bring my feet together here, I step and I step out. And then I do the exact same handoff we were just drilling on. Gives you the ability to check all your area and keep a powerful stroke going as you're looking and checking your areas. Now let's go see Master Cassidy do some reps. Good. And now let's do a 1 to 3 on a horizontal plane. Now we make a lot of reference to tape 1. It's because it's important you've studied tape 1. If you haven't, stop right now, go back, get tape 1, and get to the flow section where we talked about a 1 to 1 and how we stepped and turned. All right, now we're doing a 1 to 1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to step quarter turn, and we're going to be in a right front stance doing a downward rotation. Now when I'm looking at this 1 to 1, to me it's clockwise rotation. To you it's going to be counterclockwise. The idea is when you put those chucks in your hand and you put it in your right hand, go clockwise. Now if you're left-handed, then go counterclockwise. All right, because that's the rotation I'm trying to get out of you, and that's the easiest for right now. This is a natural rotation. It's a little more unnatural to go this way standing in this position. So you want to go clockwise rotation. You're going to step over into your right front stance, and you're going to do a 1 to 2 ratio in a downward motion. That's the one that's going away from your head and downward like you're going to hit your knee. And that's your 1 to 2. Now what I want you to do is step back to that neutral stance without breaking the flow. Pay careful attention to whether you're stopping that flow or not, because if you're stopping that flow and you're restarting, you have no reference point. You have no way of knowing which direction you're going or if you're doing the move correctly. So keep that going clockwise direction. So here I'm going in a clockwise direction. I did my figure 8 or my 1-to-2 ratio over here on this side. Now I come back to center rotation. Now you can make reference to this. This is your commanding ring. This one center 1-to-1 ring is the commander to all the rings that go around your body. And we'll be getting into that more in tape 3 and 4. So this is your 1-to-1. We turned, we went here with a 1-to-2. We came back to center. Now we turn to a left front stance. Motion still going the same way. And we're doing an upward 1-to-2 ratio. Come back to the center ring, downward 1-to-2 ratio. Now what do both of those figure 8s or 1-to-2 ratios have in common? The center commanding ring. That's it. The commanding ring ties them all together. So now we're going to try something a little tricky for you. We're going to do all 3 at one time. We're going to do a 1-to-3 ratio. Instead of breaking it down into the 1-to-2 ratio on this side and the 1-to-2 ratio on this side, we're going to try to tie the whole flow together so you get your first introduction into complex ratios. So let's start with the center ring. Now watch what's going to happen. I'm not going to be doing as much turning. I'm going to be doing a little turning, but this is hard to pull off. What I want you to get is the flow concept more than the particular, intricacies of the footwork. All right, so we start with our 1-to-1 ratio. Now we're going to go. See how they're all 3 tying together now? There's one. There's the bottom half of the middle one. There's the bottom half of the middle one. We do a complete circle on this side. Complete circle. Then we do half of the circle here on this ring. And we come over and complete the circle here. And then we top off our ratio. It doesn't become a complete 1-to-3 ratio until the beginning meets the end. Then it's connected. And then it's made a loop. And then it's a ratio. Other than that, it's just moves flying all around, which is not a bad thing. But you've got to understand ratio before you can dissect them and turn them into freestyle. So let's go back to this ratio. You're doing a 1-to-1 ratio. You're going to come up. See how we're doing the down part? Full circle down, full circle up. Full circle down, full circle up. And that's a 1-to-3. Now you can turn a little bit if you'd like to, or you can just keep it right here. This is one of the hardest moves. You guys are really going to be pressed to get this move. But it's important you get it. And now let's put a little different twist on that 1-to-3. It's not going to follow the exact same formula that we did on the first 1-to-3, but we're going to follow the actual pattern. So let's start our 1-to-3 again. We've got our 1-to-1 here, 1-to-2, then we're going to bring it across. Now watch this. As we do this, we're going to come on this side here, on the downward side, and we're going to roll right behind our back and turn ourselves into the upward 1-to-2 on the other side. So we bring it back along, and we go here, boom. Now we're actually adding another count. We're not going straight from here right into the other side. We're going here, we're adding a count and turning our back to that and keeping the flow going behind us. So we're actually leaving that move behind. So here we're going on our upward flow, 1-to-2. We come back to here. Now remember the footwork and stepping over. Then you're going to come behind yourself and turn over this way. Back, 1-to-2. Now see how that all tied together? For that one instant, it was a 1-to-3. All right, now let's do it. I'm going to turn my back on you here so you can get a better view of this. You'll get to see all the microphone and everything, but that's not the point. All right, so as I'm doing my 1-to-2 on my downward stroke here, I'm going to add an extra count, rotate to here, and turn into my upward flow. Now if I wanted, I could step and keep tying all that in together, but right now we're just going to stick with getting the move down for you. So I'm in my downward flow. I add a count here, turn, and go to the upward flow on the other side. Then I'll come back, downward flow, and be sure and step over with that foot. As I'm doing this, and I'm getting ready to do it, as I add that count, I step over, because if I don't step over, I'm going to be on a 180, a straight line. And if you've ever walked a tightrope before, then, or even tried to walk a straight line, that's what you're doing, and you're trying to do it with power, and it isn't going to happen. You're going to weeble, you're going to wobble, and you will fall down. So as you're doing this move, look at the footwork. I step over and turn. Come back. over, and turn. And it's a lot of fun. And that's a 1 to 3 behind the back. Now we're going to go to another version of a 1 to 3, a more condensed 1 to 3 with an over-the-head roll. All right, now this is tricky, and some of the terminology is a little off because we try to do everything we can to communicate the lesson to you. We're teaching things that have never been taught before. We're showing things that have never been done before. These moves have never been done in other systems anywhere in the martial arts. They're ratio complex or complex ratios. All right, so now let's get started with this over-the-head 1 to 3. So follow along as best you can with the terminology. Now, there's different ways I can do it. I'm going to do it with a very simple term of big circle, little circle, big circle. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go with big 1 to 2 ratios. Big 1 to 2 ratios. Now, what we're going to do, let me turn at this angle. Maybe that'll help out a little bit. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the head. We go big circle, and then we're going to come up here and guide from our head. Now, when I do that, I'm actually touching my thumb on my head. I'm going big circle, guiding from my head, and then there's the little circle, and then a big drop on that third count, and then right back into the flow. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you were to dissect that move, you would see that it's a big circle, 1 to 2, with a third count on it, and I'll show you what I mean. Big circle, big, little, big, little. This is a lopsided 1 to 2 ratio. Right here. Now, if you can do this, just on this count, make it a big one. See how that's doing that? Then you put that third count, so it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, this is going to be tricky. Remember, if you guide from your head, you can't hit yourself in the head. So you guide from your head, you can't hit yourself. Now let me turn this a little bit so you can get a different view. Big, little, big. Big, little, big. Big, little, big. Now let's go see Master James Cassidy and see how he does it. Okay. Now let's do the same thing with an opposite count. We're going to put the smaller ratio on the other side of the head. Now, this is important because when we start doing double chucks, you're going to have to know how to do this other move. Otherwise, you're going to just be hitting yourself with the other stick. If you don't understand the lanes that go around the body and how these ratios form the patterns they do, you're going to be really lost. So you have to do it this step by step by step. You've got to know your alphabet before you form words. You've got to know words before you can do sentences right on up to paragraphs, pages, and chapters. All right, so let's work on this. Now, this is the exact same thing. We're going to start with just a simple 1 to 2. Now, instead of putting that third count over the head on that side, right-handed right side, we're going to put it on the other side. So we're going to go 1, 2, over, 1, 2, over, 1, 2, over, 1, 2, over. So let's just do this for a moment. This is flow. 1 to 3, flow. Let me turn it a little bit for you. And a little more. Again, I hate to sound repetitious, but if you haven't studied the other tapes, you're going to be lost again. Now we're going to do something that I call warping the ratio. We're going to do an over and under 1 to 2, and we're going to do a horizontal 1 to 2, and we're going to warp them together. We're going to kind of morph them together so they're a bent 1 to 3. We call it an over and under 1 to 3. This is tricky, so pay close attention. We're going to start off easily by doing an over and under 1 to 2. It's very tricky. Now remember what I was talking about, your commanding ring? This commanding ring is the ultimate ring because from it you can go into all the other following rings or follower rings. So here we go. 1, 2. 2 is the important one. 1, 2. Now when we start working around 2 here, we're going to warp this up into a vertical plane, or a horizontal plane, and we're going to do our 1 to 2 here. Then we're going to take it and go back into this commanding ring and go right back into that 1 to 2 with the vertical axis. So watch this. It goes 1 to 2, warp it over to a 1 to 2 here, and we take it back. So now here's how the whole move looks. See the figure 8 here and the figure 8 here? They're all tied in together. Very tricky stuff. And you have to relax to be able to do this. If you try to jerk this around with too much tension, you're going to hit yourself so many times, you're just going to have knots all over your head and body. Remember about keeping this hand here. If you want to keep knots off of your left hand, you keep it posted in a nice either on guard position or just pin it down here for now. So many people, when they're doing Alyssa Joe Chucks that we've been teaching, just let their arm kind of hang dead down here, and it looks real lame, plus it gets in the way. So you want to keep this pinned up here, and plus what's it doing down there? What's it defending? What's it covering? What's it attacking? It's doing nothing. Let me turn this for you. Over and under, and horizontal. Now I'm going to speed it up a little bit. While we're still in the flow section of the advanced chucks for the intermediate, I want to introduce you to a little flow with double chucks. We're going to start out very simply and just take 2 pair of chucks holding down in the combat range, and we're just going to make a simple circle or a 1-to-1 ratio. Then we're going to take this simple circle and we're going to cross ourselves and do it over on the other side. Just to get familiar with how this feels. Not that you're ever going to be crossed up in combat and be stuck like this. It's just I want you to get the feel of this comfortably before you try to do it too fast. And bring it back out, 1-to-1 on each side, and back. Then you'll shorten the distance or the number of times you're going to rotate on each side, and you'll just make it just like this. Now, as you're doing this, don't get in the habit like so many people do and just do the right arm over the left arm. You don't want to do that. It sets a bad precedent. You want to go left over right, right over left, left over right, right over left, and then it just flows. I'll turn a little bit for you so you can see it from another angle. Double 1-to-2s. Then we're going to do 2 finger flips, get to the negative position, and we're going to go into 1-to-2 flows negative. And now let's see the reverse direction in a positive grip. You're going to start with an upward flow on this one. Double 1-to-1s on the outside. A lot of people like to do this move. It's real simple. That's where they get into all their clutching and doing these type of moves. But for right now, we're going to stay real simple, and we're going to do just double upward 1-to-1s. And we bring it over to the other side, same thing. Then you kind of tie them together. Now we get to a fun one. Double over the head 1-to-3s. Very tricky. You're going to get a kick out of it though. And it's tricky, and there are no words really to describe it. If you worked the 1 to 3 over the heads on both sides like I asked you to at the beginning of this tape, then you're not going to have too many problems doing this move. It's just going to take you a little time to figure out the flow. Also, this is another one where you do it for a while, you do what you think is right, and then you send us the tape of you doing it, and then we'll try to correct you, or you come down privately and we'll work with you, or you can fly us up there. We're pretty easy on this, but we want to get you trained right. If you're going to represent us in the Alyssa Joe weapon system, we want to make sure you have all the techniques exactly right. So let's do the double over the head, 1 to 3s. A lot of fun. So we're going to start it out just like this. We're going to come over. See how this is doing this? As I said, there are no words to describe this. There's just doing it. Let me turn so you can get a better look at this. And now let's go to the rollover, probably one of the most important double rolls that you can do. It's really complicated. I can talk you through this. You're going to have to do it. Just take the knots, suck it in, and have a good time trying these moves. Now first, before you even open up the chucks, I want you to cross your arms. If you're right-handed, I want you to do it just exactly as I say. I'm going to get in a left front stance, or left foot in front. It doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect combative stance. I just would like your left foot in front so your hips are turned at a 45-degree angle. Close your chucks. Don't open them yet. Take your left hand, put it over your right hand. Notice how I'm crossed up, and I want to maintain this plane on the side of my body. I want to maintain this plane. This is where everybody messes up, is as they start to rotate and turn and everything, they start letting their planes bend or warp a little bit or go out of sync. You've got to maintain this plane. So left hand is on the top, left foot is in the front, and we're looking just like this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend these are paintbrushes. As they're crossed, we're going to draw a great big circle using both paintbrushes. So as we go around, we're going to go all the way around. Don't take any shortcuts and try to do it this way. Go ahead and do the full rotation, full arms width, and keep drawing this circle until your arms cross up again. Now can you keep going? No. And yes, you can keep going if you can anticipate this crossing of the sticks and then go on over to the other side. So as soon as you anticipate this coming along and you know you're not going to be able to go any further, you tilt your plane just a little bit. Here's where people mess up, is they don't continue this rotation under the arm. Now as it comes across, you continue this full pattern. Keep painting that circle with your left hand and bring it over to the other side. Now that I'm on the other side, I'm crossed up and I'm in the exact opposite position that I started with on the other side. Now that I'm crossed up, I'm going to use my 2 paintbrushes to draw a perfect circle again. Full arm circles until they cross up. Can I continue? No and yes. If I can anticipate this crossing, then I bring it over here to the other side. Now when I'm doing this, I'm actually going through an 8 or a 1 to 2 ratio or an X pattern right here as I come across. Once I get in this position, I maintain this plane again, and I bring it over, draw the circles until I cross up or anticipate and bring it over to the other side. Full rotations, anticipate, cut my angles down through this way, full rotation, anticipate, and bring it over to the other side. Now this is your rollover. Very effective combative move, as well as a beautiful move for anything you do. Just remember, tie, untie, tie, untie. All right? Now, do that for a while until you get the flow. If you want to, start loosening up a little bit and start doing it a little more fluid with the closed chucks. When you feel brave or confident, go ahead and let them hang down. And now let's take a look at this from a different perspective. I want you to be able to see that X plane that I'm cutting through in front of me when I'm doing this. You've got a good view from the side to see how I drew the circle complete. Now I want you to see how I cut that angle to give you the perfect lines. Now, left hand's on top, left foot's in front, and we're crossed up. Now we're going to untie this mess, go all the way around in the full circle, Remember to keep going and drawing that circle with your left hand. Now I'm cutting down in the X pattern here. As I do, I bring this in and I cut it down that X pattern also. Full rotation until I anticipate the tie-up. Bring it down in front of me. Continue this one until it gets in position to bring it down in front of me. Rotation. And then you just smooth it out. Now when you start to feel your arms flowing together like this, it's time to let go. Time to do some chucks. Be very careful. You'll start by getting it once or twice, and then it'll go 3 or 4 times, and you'll get really excited and you'll do it 6 or 8 times. And after you hit about 6, 8, 10 times, you'll stop messing up as much and you'll actually have the technique. The problem is in between the 2 and 3 times that you know it and the 4 and 5 times you know it, you've whacked yourself. It's okay, just be careful and don't get too excited and don't try to do it too fast, and whatever you do, don't do it to try to impress somebody while you're still in the early stages. That's when it's going to get you. All right, so let's do the flow. Starts just like this. Let me turn for you. Turn a little more. Left over right, right over left. Left over right, right over left. Notice how I'm anticipating the tie-up, and I'm going to the other side before it ever even slows the flow down. Now, if you get this, then it's time to go back to the last move we did, where we add over the head. Back to the rollover, back to over the head, 1 to 3s. Back to the rollovers, back to single time. See how this is coming together now? If you know the lanes, you can't go wrong. Back to rollover, over the head 1 to 3s. Back to rollover, back to single count, double 1 to 2s, and back to single ratio. Now doesn't that make a lot of sense? And now let's go to some intermediate strikes. Be very careful. The first technique we're going to work on is the backhand strike. It's just like a back knuckle. You're going to throw out your technique, snap it out, and pull it right back. You've got to pull it back faster than the chuck can recoil or you're going to end up getting hit. So be careful. Now as we do this, we're going to take this chuck in both hands, which is a very good on-guard fighting position. This is a fighting position. You can use it for blocking. You can strike with either hand. You can rotate. You can do all kinds of things from this position. So this is your on-guard position for strikes, for fighting. All right, now the first thing is, like I said, the backhand. We're going to come off and hit, come off and hit. Now notice how I'm snapping that thing back before it can hit me, because if I just stay there, it's going to come back and crush your hand. So you want to snap it out and pull it back. Then you have the exact same technique on the front hand. A little more difficult. Pull it back. Pull it back. Pull it back. And now let's go to the 1 to 3 strike over the head. We're going to do the version A first. So you've got the chuck in your right hand, left foot in front. You're going to do a diagonal strike, and then you're going to go over your head. So you go 1, 2, which is a good block. 3, continue the flow. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Power on 1 and 3. 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Now notice my footwork. heel toe, heel toe. Constantly rocking and shifting that momentum or shifting that force into my strike. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And now let's go to the B version of the 1 to 3 over the head. You remember that one? That was the second version of the over the head, 1 to 3. Now on this one, our over the head is on this side. So we'll start with the block first. We'll go with the block, then we'll come down 1, 2, block, 1, 2, block. Over the head, over the head. Referring back to tape 1, I showed you the over the head combination where I combined the two diagonal strikes, and I also showed you over and under, a vertical 1 to 2. Now we're going to see the applications for those strikes. Let's start off in a left front, let's start off in a right front stance. Put the chuck up on the right shoulder. Now what we're going to do is we're going to parry inside. We're going to hit hard. Dig that thing inside, go here, here, and here, and then we're going to come back and go over and down. And then it sets us up to start the motion over again. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now with the power, you're not going to see it flipping as much because it's going to power through whatever it is you're hitting. You can notice there's a little bobble on some of those strikes because I'm doing them too slow. All right, so now we start with application. We go. Doing moves like this, especially with a lot of repetition on the bag, is an excellent time to practice your crawl. Because as you do them, the chucks are going to slide. Work your crawl, get them back up into the position before they go out of your hand. Okay, one of the last single strikes we're going to do on advanced chucks for the intermediate is a simple 1-to-1 ratio, but on this one we're not going to cross the center line. Now you notice when we did all of our diagonal strikes, just because you can only see this part of the stroke doesn't mean that there's not a complete circle behind you. The circle's a full rotation that comes around, a full circle. We're crossing the center line with that circle. On this one we're going to stay on this side of the center. The beginning of the stroke and the end of the stroke are going to stay off to the side. So we'll start with this one. We're just going to hit in as deep as we can. We've got a little bit of an angle attack going here. It's going to go as far through the object you're hitting as it can, and then it's going to kind of skim the bag and pull on through. It's just going to kind of graze it and come on through. All the damage is on the initial impact, and then it's going to pull through, keep your flow going to where you could go and do something else. So the first simple exercise, left front stance from a backhand, is staying right there on the center. See how that's doing that? And you pull it right through. Boom. Then you can bring it over to the other side. Or you can bring it over to the other hand. So be sure and balance yourself out and do both sides. That's your simple 1-to-1 without crossing the center. Now let's go with some single strikes with double chucks. Double single strikes. I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but it truly is double single strikes. Put both chucks up on your shoulder in this position, in your fighting combative position. So hold down about 2 fingers from the bottom of the chuck. First technique, you're going to be in the left front stance, is you're going to cut across your center this way, go through, and then follow it with the other stick. And then you're going to bring both of them up in a raise this way and go right, left, raise, left, right, raise, right, left, raise, left, right, raise. Now you can switch your feet as you do this also. You actually need to, just so you can get familiar. Because in combat, you're not really going to get a choice of where your feet are going to be. And now we get to the last part of strikes. application. Earlier in the tape, I showed you how to do rollover. Again, this is one of those you're going to have to be really careful on. It's a good knuckle buster, but it is an excellent technique. You're going to start this way. Remember how we crossed and uncrossed and rolled over? I'm assuming by now you've got that down. If you don't have that down, rewind. Go back to that segment and practice it, because you have no business hitting this bag if you don't. So get the rollover down, get the feel, and then move on up into the bag. Again, don't hit it too hard. Just go ahead and keep a simple flow, which is what we're going to do right here. So I'm just going to roll over. Now, if you'd like, you can start from here. Just do your rollover, get your rhythm, and then kind of ease up to it a little bit. And just hitting with the very tip. Remember, as I said, anytime you're hitting with the chucks, you hit with the last 2 inches of the stick. Because I'm flowing, I'm not blasting this bag, but you can blast this bag with these. You can do all kinds of things with this rollover move. And now let's break this technique down to its striking components. You're going to start with the right hand up and the left hand down underneath. Very similar to a lot of Kali. Now as you have this hand up here, you're going to go 1, it's a diagonal stroke. 2, it's a diagonal stroke. 3, you're going to roll the 1-to-1 on the side of the center line, not crossing center. And then 4 is going to cross your center. 4. Then you're going to come across your center with your other hand, your underneath hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you'll just keep going with that. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we'll speed it up a little bit and put a little oomph on the end of these techniques. Then as you get better with it, you can start to relax with it. You can actually play a little tune.